अस्सलाम वालेकुम एवरीवन। क्या हाल है? वालेकुम सलाम। क्या हाल है आप लोगों का? लॉन्ग टाइम। वालेकुम सलाम। Anyway, so sir, have you predicted IGCSE threshold? No, but I haven't. But the paper was nothing unusual. Okay. Yeah, I fixed the description. I know. Thank you for pointing that out. I fixed it. Okay. Khair, anyway, as always, you'll find a PDF in the description where you can download past papers, and also once we're done taking the notes, I'll attach a PDF of that also. Okay. So I'll tell you guys what we're gonna do today. Today, inshallah, we will go over the concepts of coordinate geometry, not in like a lot of detail. Okay. First stream in a very long time. Yeah. First stream in a very long time. You're right. Khair. So as I was saying, we'll go over the concepts of coordinate geometry and graphs of inequalities. Not in a lot of detail, but we will do lots and lots of past paper questions. Okay. Acha. So shall we start? Are you guys ready? What exam do you guys have on Monday, वैसे? Do commerce students have an exam on Monday? I know science students have an. No, wait. Yeah, do you guys have an exam on Monday? Walaikum salam. So I had my grade 9 term 2 final paper yesterday. Went very well. Thank you for your videos. You're welcome. Pleased to hear that. So those of you who are watching, if you guys could just like the stream, that would mean a lot. And also subscribe in case you haven't done that already. No exam on Monday. Chale, that's great. Okay. None for both sciences and commerce. All right. That's great. Yeah, I heard about that. Math P1 and Bio being on the same day. God help you guys. Khair. Anyway, so let's start. Like I said, we're gonna go over the concepts. Okay. Then we'll do some past paper questions. Okay. Sir, हमने भी देख लें. Yes, this stream will help you for grade. If these topics are tested in your grade 9, I mean, if these topics are coming in your grade 9 final, then yes, it will definitely help. Okay. Clash Bio P4 and Maths Paper 1. Yeah, I know that. God help you guys. Khair. Let's start. So we'll start with coordinate geometry. How much did you earn from Bright? Why? What do you care, bhai? How do you know? How do you know about Bright? So basically, all the concepts at a glance, we'll go over them one by one. So the first concept is of distance. Okay, distance, or you can say length. So if you want to find out the distance or length of a line, here's what you do. You use the formula, which is AB, and let's write that down. So AB equals to square root of x2 minus x1 the whole thing square plus y2 minus y1 the whole thing square. X2 minus x1 the whole thing square plus y2 minus y1 the whole thing square. And in this formula, you can mess things around. You can change x and y. You can change this x1 and x2. Okay, that's fine. There's nothing to worry about. Why? Because you have a square at the end. So things will just even out. Okay, even if you change the order a little. Now, so Bright was paying me millions of dollars. Okay. I didn't know that. Do we need to note it, or is it fine if you? It's up to you. I mean, if you wanna be able to memorize, then yes, I would suggest you write it down. Okay, that will just help you in memorizing the notes. Okay. Otherwise, I'll share a PDF of it in the description, so you can always download it from there. Okay. All right. Now here's concept number 2. Concept number 2 is that midpoint. Okay. Now theoretically, what does midpoint look like? This is what midpoint looks like. So if you have a line running from A to B, and the midpoint will basically be the point that's at the very center. So the formula for midpoint will be you add the x coordinates, divide by 2, you add the y coordinates, divide by 2. y1 plus y2 upon 2. Okay. So that is assuming that the coordinates of B are x2, y2, and the coordinates of A are x1, y1. Please do not mess up the formulas. Okay. In midpoint, we add. In the formula for gradient, we subtract. Okay. Do perpendicular bisector always intersect at midpoint? Yes. Perpendicular bisector. The term bisect basically means cutting into half. Okay. So if it's not cutting into half, then it's not a perpendicular bisector. Okay. It's just a perpendicular line. Okay. Now distance gradient, distance midpoint, and now the third concept, which is the concept of gradient. Now theoretically, what is gradient? Gradient is basically a measure of the steepness of a line. It is a measure of the steepness of a line. Okay, or you can say it is a ratio of rise to run. Ratio of rise to run between 2 points. So let's say that you have a straight line, okay, and you want to find out the gradient of it. So here's point A, here's point B. Let's say point A has coordinates x1, y1, okay, and let's say point B has coordinates x2, y2. Now remember, the gradient is represented by lowercase m. So this is the formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now y2 minus y1 is what tells you the rise between 2 points, and x2 minus x1 what tells you the run between the 2 points. Okay. Yes, there will be plenty of streams on AdMaths also. Don't worry about it, because the math paper is just around the corner. That's why I'm streaming math more frequently than AdMaths. Okay. Okay, now related to gradients, there are lots and lots of concepts. Okay. Concept number 1 related to gradient is this, that parallel lines have the same gradient. Acha, before we get into that, remember these 4 concepts. Remember that a straight line could be one of 4 types. Okay, and just by looking at a straight line, you should be able to identify what the nature of the gradient will be, whether it's going to be positive, whether it's going to be 0, whether it's going to be negative, or infinity. Okay. So a straight line on an xy plane can be one of 4 types. It can be upward sloping, it can be downward sloping, it can be horizontal, and it can be vertical. So this is one possibility, this is the second possibility, this is the third possibility, this is the fourth possibility. Okay. Now what about the first case? What do you think the gradient would be in the first case? Okay. That's a question for you guys. In the first case, what do you think the gradient of a line that's rising will be? Sir, do some questions of probability, some questions of statistics and probability. Okay, we'll do that. Don't worry. Abhi, let's focus on what we're doing. Okay, let's not worry too much about what we're not doing. Matrix transformation. I have a video on matrix transformation. It's probably the last video of the whole transformation playlist. You guys can check it out from there. Like afterwards, before P1, let's see. Positive, yep, that's correct. So in the first case, the gradient is positive. Okay. What about the second case? The second case is negative. And for the third case, it's 0. And I'll write down for the remaining ones. For the fourth case, it's infinity. Okay. Now the reason why it's 0 is because there is no rise. If you calculate the distance, if not the distance, sorry, if you take any 2 points and you find out the difference in y, you will notice that's 0. So that's why 0 divided by anything is 0. And for the fourth case, the reason why it's 0 is infinity is because the denominator is going to be equal to 0. So anything divided by 0 gives you infinity. Okay? So just by looking at a line, remember you should be able to identify what the gradient of a line is going to be. Very important. It's going to save you, it can save you some marks. So let's say there's a positive line and you, for some odd reason, have worked out the gradient to be negative. You know, this is something that can happen in graphs of functions, that you're supposed to get a positive slope, but for some odd reason, maybe you made a calculation error or something, you get a negative value, then that should prompt you that is because you've made a calculation error. Acha, apologies if my camera is zooming in and out. Yeah, here it is. I fixed it now. So are 10 years enough for, yeah, I mean, if you've been getting a good score consistently, then yes, 10 years are more than enough. Okay. Now remember a few key points related to gradient. Point number 1 is parallel lines have the, so you guys fill in the blank. Parallel lines have the blank gradient. Okay, fill in this blank, number 1. Number 2 is collinear points, and I'd like someone to tell me what collinear is. Collinear points give the blank gradient. So please explain the fourth one. Yeah, sure. Just a minute. So the fourth one, dekho, if you try and find out the gradient for this line, you will do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now when you do x2 minus x1, you'll realize that the denominator is equal to 0. Now irrespective of whatever your numerator is, the second you divide it by 0, what you get is infinity. Okay? Yep, the answer is same and same. So same for the first one and also same for the second one. Yes, collinear points are points that lie on a straight line. Good job. Who is that? Hershey. Harsha, is that you? Yeah, collinear points are points on the same line. Yes. So collinear points are basically points that lie on the same straight line. Okay. And remember, only when we know for a fact that two lines are parallel do we take the gradient to be equal. Okay, and only when we know for a fact that 2 points are collinear do we take into account that yes, they will give the same gradient. Okay. Oh, I figured that's you. Acha. Khair, yeah, same gradient of collinear point. Did I miss anything important? No, I don't think I missed anything important. Okay, great. Alright, then in the case of perpendicular lines, what do we know about perpendicular lines? Acha, do tell me what you understand by the word perpendicular. In the case of perpendicular lines, what happens? The product of gradient is, what is it equal to? What is the product of gradient equal to? And there's another way to look at this, and that is or the gradients of perpendicular lines. Yep, 90 degree. Or negative reciprocal of each other. Yes. Okay, so remember this, that if you multiply the two gradients of if you multiply the gradients of perpendicular line, it's minus 1. And another easier way, and perhaps the way that you guys are most familiar with, is that the gradients are negative reciprocal of one another. Okay. Add math students in the chat. Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. Okay, so there's this one simple drill which will help you understand parallel and perpendicular. Okay, so let's say parallel line. Okay, and here we have perpendicular line. So in the first column, I'm going to write down the gradient, just a random gradient of any line, okay? And I want you to tell me what will be the gradient of line that's parallel to it and what will be the gradient of line that's perpendicular to it. So I'll do one example for you. So if let's say you have a line which has gradient 3, what will be the gradient of the line that's parallel to it? Also 3. What will be the gradient of the line that's perpendicular to it? That's going to be minus 1 upon 3. Okay. So just like that, tell me what will be the gradient of a line that's parallel to a line with gradient minus 2 and perpendicular also. ठीक है, इसका जवाब दें. फिर I'd like you guys to answer this. And then maybe I'd like you guys to do one more, which is minus 1. There you go. And that's it. 3 and minus 1 upon 3. Good job. Wait, I've done that already, so I take that back. No, good job. So, yep, that's correct. Minus 2 and 1 upon 2. So, minus 2 and 1 upon 2. Good job. For 1 upon 5, it's going to be 1 upon 5 and minus 5. Good job. And then for minus 1, it's going to be minus 1 and positive 1. Okay. Okay, good job. Okay, now then let's talk about, so this was concept number 3. Now let's talk about concept number 4. Okay. अच्छा एक काम करते हैं या चलो let's let it be. Concept number 4 is equation of a straight line. Now, in order to find out the equation of a straight line, you need a combination of things. Okay, you don't need you need basically either you need 2 points. Okay, so that's good enough. You can form an equation. Number 2, you need the gradient and a point. Okay, you need the gradient and a point. So if you can find out the gradient and a point through which the line is passing, that's good enough information. Or you need the gradient and y-intercept, which isn't any different from the second case. But if you have the y-intercept exclusively, then you can just form the equation in a step. Okay. So let's see what a straight line looks like. So basically, when we say equation of a straight line, so what that means is, so let's say here we have a straight line. In fact, let's draw it like this. Okay, this is easier. Okay, now basically the general form of the equation of a straight line looks like this: y equals to mx plus c. Now what is m? M, as we know, is the gradient. Okay, and c is basically what? C is basically the y-intercept. Okay, so this is what c is. C is the gradient and m is the y-intercept. Sir, can we get to the question? Quite basic in my opinion. Okay, if you find it basic, that's great. But let's go over the concepts anyway. Okay, which is why I'm doing a summary, so that if you guys know the concepts already, you don't have to wait too long. Okay. Okay, so this is what the equation of a straight line looks like. Okay, y equals to mx plus c, and like I said, you need one. You don't need all 3. Okay, you just need one of the 3. So 1 of 3. Achha, then remember this. Remember the following rules, that an equation of a straight line can be one of, as we know, a straight line can be one of 4 types. So now remember this. Okay. So in the first case, the equation of a straight line is going to be y equals to mx plus c, where m is positive. Okay. In the first case, the equation of a straight line is going to be y equals to mx plus c, where m is positive. Okay. And no, AdMath students, if you guys are thinking of using the other formula where you don't have to plug in where you don't have to find out the value of c separately and then use that, you can't use that in math. Okay. Whatever it is that you've learned in AdMaths, you can't use it in math. Yes. Okay, you guys don't want to lose marks because of that. Whatever it is that you learn in math, that is something that can be applied in AdMaths, but whatever it is that you learn in AdMaths, you can't apply that in math. Okay, so please remember. Yes, C is the point where the line cuts the y-axis. Okay, point where the line cuts the y-axis. Okay. अभी तक आप लोगों ने आई थिंक CI नहीं दिया ना, इसलिए आप लोगों ने, इसलिए you guys are still using it. Okay, but school में maybe you'll get away with it, but in CIs please remember you can't use anything that you learn in AdMaths and math. Now in the second case, the equation of straight line will also be like y equals to mx plus c. Now in the third case, you have, this is, let's say, the point C. Okay, let's say the point where the line is cutting the y-axis is C. So the equation of this line will be y equals to C. Okay, and what about the gradient in this case? The gradient is going to be 0. Now remember, this will only be the case if you have a horizontal line. In the case of a horizontal line, you only need to know one point on the line, or you only need to know the point where the line is cutting the y-axis. If you have that, that's good enough. Okay, why? Because the equation of the line would be y equals to c, where c is the point where the line cuts the y-axis. Okay, and then what about in the case of a vertical line? If, let's say, this is the point where the line is cutting the x-axis, the equation will be x equals to b. Okay, so this is in the case of a vertical line. All right, sir, can we use the formula y? Okay, no, you can't use that formula. Okay, I've already answered that. Tracing paper, I've made a video on that. You guys can go check that out. So rumors are, but please ignore that. Okay, Zenomatics said we can use this. Okay, I'm gonna have to look into that. My opinion is you can't use it. Okay, and it's okay. Two math teachers can have a difference in opinion, so it's okay. You don't have to worry about it. Sir, Zen mentioned you in a video where he said that you sent your kids with tracing paper and it wasn't allowed. But the thing is that varies from center to center. मैंने इस पे पूरी एक detailed video बनाई है कि just watch that video. Okay, what you're saying is part of what I said. Officially, the tracing paper is allowed. You can open up any कोई भी yearly pass paper उठा के. The thing is, आप लोग technically, so it shouldn't matter what I'm saying or what anyone else is saying. If you just read the, अगर आप थोड़ी effort कर लें and ज़रा खुद instructions पढ़ लें, so you'll find the answer to most of your questions. So this is a May June 2022 paper. Okay, it's the most recent paper there is. Actually, no, it's not the most recent paper. There is October November also, but it's clearly covered. You may use tracing paper. So the thing is, अब अगर कोई आपसे बोल रहा है कि tracing paper नहीं allowed, तो फिर बेटा आप ये instructions किस लिए हैं? So just read the instructions yourself. Honestly, you'll find the answers to most of your questions. Okay, sir, how do you use tracing paper for symmetry? I've made a video on it. Please check it out. Okay, ठीक है बेटा, summers में done है. Okay, I'm gonna start training after the summers. ठीक है. Okay, now किधर होगा लेकिन, कराची या लाहौर? टेक्निकली इट शुड बी ऑन अ न्यूट्रल एवेन्यू, वरना कराची में होगा तो आई विल गेट अ होम ग्राउंड एडवांटेज, लाहौर में होगा तो सर जैन विल गेट अ होम ग्राउंड एडवांटेज. टेक्निकली इट शुड बी एट अ न्यूट्रल वेन्यू. खैर, एनीवे चलें. सो yes beta, that's exactly what I say. Okay, Acha, I'm not going to read the comments because then I lose my chain of thoughts. Let's get back to work. For the next 5 minutes, I'm not reading any comments. Okay. Okay, so we're done with equation of a straight line. Acha, एक important concept है, although not very frequently tested in O levels, but it's important nonetheless, and that is equation of perpendicular bisector. Equation of perpendicular bisector. Now, equation of perpendicular bisector is basically a line which it's quite self-explanatory, honestly. If you just sort of look into these two words, perpendicular and bisector, you will figure out how to find out the equation. But I know आप लोग कहाँ इतनी मेहनत करने वाले हैं, तो मैं खुद ही लिखवा देता हूँ आप लोगों को. So basically, perpendicular bisector is a line that is passing through the midpoint, number one, and is perpendicular. Okay, so perpendicular, that means making a 90-degree angle. Bisect means passing through the midpoint. Now, bisect means to cut into half. Okay, so that means it's making a 90-degree angle and it's passing through the midpoint. So you can do this step by step. Now the red line is basically the perpendicular bisector, and you want to find out the equation of the red line. Okay, so how do we do that? Let's do it step by step. Step one is that you find the gradient of line AB. Okay, so what you now have is this M of AB. Okay, now what do you think step number 2 would be? In fact, let's call this step 1 part A. Okay, so this is step 1 part A. Now tell me, what do you think will be step 1 part B? In the meantime, I'm rearranging this. So here's step 1 part A. Now there's a part B to step 1. What do you think that is? Yep, you take the negative reciprocal. That is correct. Okay, so step 2 is that you take the negative reciprocal. Take the negative reciprocal. Now, why are we taking the negative reciprocal? The reason why we're taking the negative reciprocal is because, remember, we're finding out the equation of the perpendicular bisector. Okay, so since we're finding out the equation of the perpendicular bisector, you will have to take the negative reciprocal. So that means you now have minus 1 upon AB, which is equal to the gradient of the red line. Okay, now that was step 1. Now let's do step 2. Step 2 is that you find the midpoint of AB. Find the midpoint of AB. Okay, and then step 3 is that you apply y equals to mx plus c, use y equals to mx plus c, and form an equation. Okay, so remember, once you have the gradient, you will only have m from y equals to mx plus c. Then in order to find out c, you need to plug in a point and find the gradient. Okay, okay, now what do you guys suggest? Do you guys suggest we do some questions of coordinate geometry and then do concepts of inequalities and then do questions of inequalities, or do we do concepts of inequalities at the same time and then we do past paper questions together? Let's have your input. Sir, paper 1 mein approx kitne marks are good to go? Again, depends on the threshold. If you get, let's say, to be on the safe side, you should be aiming around 68 plus. Yes, you will plug in the midpoint. You will plug in the midpoint. Okay. When you will use the gradient of the perpendicular bisector and you will use the midpoint of AB. Okay, coordinate geometry first, together, concept plus questions. Okay. Okay, fine. So let's do questions first. Chai or coffee? Chai, definitely. Definitely chai. Okay, now, so here are a few questions. Okay, let's see what it says. It says the lines x plus y equals to 2 and the lines x minus 3y equals to 6 are shown in the diagram in the answer space. Find the gradient of the line x minus 3y equals to 6. Okay. So if you have to find out the gradient of this line, so how do you form the gradient? How do you find out the gradient if you're already given the equation? So what you do is you just make y the subject. So x minus 3y equals to 6. So you get everything on one side and you take y across. So x minus 6 equals to 3y. 3y equals to x minus 6. I've just written it nicely. Now you have x minus 6 upon 3. So if you separate this, so you have 1 upon 3x. Minus 6 upon 3. Now 6 upon 3 is not something that we're really concerned with. We're only concerned with the coefficient of x, which is 1 upon 3. Okay, So if you compare it with y equals to mx plus c, you can see that the gradient is 1 upon 3. Okay, it's 1 upon 3, not the not minus 1 upon 3. ठीक है. अच्छा, अब इसका part B है. Now since you guys said that we shouldn't do concepts of inequality, so we'll do part B later. Okay. अच्छा, ये अच्छा part है. चलो, we'll come back to this. ठीक है, we'll come back to this part. पहले ज़रा let me pick some nice questions. Okay, so I'm trying to do the easy questions first before we do the difficult ones. Okay, so it says a straight line passes through the points p1 comma 2 and q5 comma minus 14. Find the coordinates of the midpoint and the gradient of pq. Okay, so if you want to find out the coordinates of the midpoint, that's pretty easy. Do 1 plus 5 upon 2 comma 2 plus minus 14 upon 2. Now these 1 mark questions are very unforgiving. Okay, so if you make a sign error, that's it, done. 1 plus 5 is 6, 6 upon 2 is 3. 2 plus minus 14 is minus 12. Minus 12 divided by 2 is negative 6. So there you go. 3 comma minus 6 is your answer. Yes, we will do difficult questions. Don't worry about it. Okay. But how'd you guys get minus 8? ये देखो, अभी marks कट जाने थे आपके. Nabil, you've lost 1 mark. Congratulations. Yeah, you've lost 1 mark. Okay, and now don't expect that you're gonna get any mark for. Okay, Shazia, you've also lost a mark. Brilliant. ऐसे ही आप लोग marks फेंक के आते हैं, फिर कहते हैं grade नहीं आया. खैर, anyway. Now let's do part B. Part B says the gradient of PQ. Please remember, you have to use the correct formula. You guys are using the incorrect formula. That's why you're getting the wrong answer. Okay? Or maybe you guys are making a sign error or something. So basically, the gradient of PQ. Now for this, you have to use the gradient formula. Again, please don't make a sign error over here. Minus 14 minus 2 over 5 minus 1. So what do you have? You have minus 14 minus 2, that's minus 16. 5 minus 1 is 4. So what's minus 16 upon 4? That's minus 4. So there you go. Minus 4 is your answer. Okay. Now part C. Let's do part C. अभी कौन कह रहा था कि आसान questions करें? आप ही लोग कह रहे थे ना कि मुश्किल questions करें. आसान questions में तो आप इतने errors कर रहे हैं. And now you guys want me to jump to the difficult ones. Why would you? So I think I don't need to justify why I'm doing the easier questions. So the question is nice in the sense that it has already made you find out the gradient. Okay, so that means as far as y equals to minus 4x plus c is concerned, that part is taken care of. Okay, now in order to find out c, all you have to do is plug in 1 point. Now please try and choose a point that's easier to work with. Okay, now I wouldn't go with 5 and minus 14, although that will give me the right answer. But you know, why would I want to multiply? Why would I want to deal with minus 14 when I can just deal with 1 and 2? So plug in 2 in place of y, plug in 1 in place of x plus c. So 2 is equals to minus 4 plus c. What c is equals to? C is equals to 6. So y is equals to minus 4x plus 6. And yes, if you want, you can also use the coordinates of midpoint. Part B दोबारा समझा दूँ? Beta, it's just the formula for gradient. That's it. Okay. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, now, so this is an interesting question. Let's do this. This question says the equation of a line L is, yeah, you can plug in the midpoint also. You can plug in any point as long as the line is passing through that point. Okay, you will get the same answer, so don't worry about it. Hasnain, beta, I'll make a video on that. Okay, what's the date today? It's the 6th, right? I will make a video on it, so you can watch that. Okay. Not y equals to 4x. Okay, I didn't see the minus sign. Yes. Okay, that's correct. I was gonna say you've lost a mark as well, but you haven't. Anyway, so chalo, I'll give you guys 2 minutes to figure this out. M equals to minus 1 upon 2. Alright, hold on to your answer. Let's see if that's correct or not. Okay, so you guys are saying minus 1 upon 2. I think that's the correct answer. So x plus 2y equals to minus 1. Let's make y the subject. So 2y equals to minus x minus 1. Now we're almost there. So what you guys can do is you can skip the part where you write it together and then you write it separately. You can write this together. Okay. So the gradient for this line, as you can see, is minus 1 upon 2. Okay. So part A, the answer is minus 1 upon 2. Okay, now let's talk about part B. Part B says find the equation of the line parallel to L. So notice that the keyword over here is parallel. Parallel should tell you something. Parallel should tell you same gradient. Now remember, just remember two words. Parallel means same gradient. Perpendicular means negative reciprocal. Okay, so the second you see parallel, you should be just write this down. Same gradient. The second you see perpendicular, write down negative reciprocal. So y equals to minus 1 upon 2x plus c. Now c is a point. In order to find out c, we need a point through which the line is passing. Now if you've anticipated that this point is actually the y-intercept and replace c with 5 directly, that's brilliant. If you haven't, then you can do it the old-fashioned way. Eventually you'll realize that c is actually equal to 5, and now you have y equals to minus half x plus 5 as your answer. Okay fellas, there you go. चलें ये करें. Now let me tell you, the first two parts are easy. If you get those right, that's not a big deal. It's the second two parts that I'm interested in. So basically you will have to wait till the end of the stream. I'll attach it, then you can download it. Okay, so for the coordinates of the midpoint, I think you guys have gotten the correct answer. So you add the two, 1 plus 7 upon 2, comma, minus 3 plus 2 upon 2. 1 plus 7 is 8, 8 upon 2 is 4. Minus 3 plus 2 is minus 1, minus 1 upon 2 is, well, let's just write it as minus 1 upon 2. So we have 4, comma, minus 1 upon 2, okay? Now part B. Part B says find the gradient of the line PQ. Okay, so let's do that. We have 2 minus minus 3 over 7 minus 1. Please do not make a calculation or a sign error. You guys don't want to lose marks over here. So the correct answer is 5 over 6. Good job, whoever gave the correct answer. Now part C. Part C says the line L with equation 2x minus 5y equals to k passes through the point Q. Find the value of q. Okay, 2x minus 5y equals to k passes through the point q. Now thankfully we know what the coordinates of q are. There's 7 comma 2. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to plug in 7 in place of x, and we're going to plug in 2 in place of y, and that should give us the value of k. Okay, so 2 into 7 is 14. 14 minus 10 equals to k. So k equals to what? K equals to 4. There you go. So beware, because CI is removing IGCSE. They're only removing the videos of past papers that aren't officially out. Okay, that's what they're removing. Okay, now do parts 2. If you guys are able to do part 2, well, you have my respect. Magnitude is basically distance. Okay, magnitude is basically distance. Why did we put 7 comma 2? Read the question. If you read the question, you'll find the answer to your question. It's passing through the point Q. So you plug in 7 in place of x, you plug in 2 in place of y. हाँ भाई क्या हो गया जो कह रहे थे इतने आसान आसान सवाल हैं यार. What happened to you guys? You guys should have solved it by now. A equals to minus 2. Okay, let's find out. A equals to 6. Okay. So we have 6, we have minus 2. Anyone else? Anyone else? Anyone else? Minus 2 again. Okay. 5. Alright. 4. मरियम आई थिंक कि आपकी स्ट्रीम थोड़ी पीछे चल रही है. खैर anyway. Minus 2 upon 3, alright, minus 2 upon 5. I think that's the correct answer. I think the correct answer, if I remember correctly, is minus 2 upon 5. Sir, negative number का square या cube हमेशा bracket लगाएंगे? Yeah, of course. If you're squaring the entire number with the sign, then you will put a bracket. चलें मैं कर देता हूँ. So basically, A is parallel to line L. What does that mean? That means same gradient. Okay. So remember, the second you read something like parallel, remember same gradient. Okay. Now let's find out the gradient of line L. So after the first part, we know what the equation looks like. The equation looks like 2x minus 5y equals to 4. So that means 2x minus 4 equals to 5y. Okay. Which basically means that the gradient of the line is 2 upon 5x. Okay. And everything else is just irrelevant. Okay. So the gradient of the line is 2 upon 5. Now let's find out the gradient of A. So x minus 3 equals to ay. Okay. Or you can say, no, wait a minute. Let's keep ay over here. Let's take x across. So ay is equals to minus x plus 3, which means y is equals to minus 1 upon ax plus 3 upon a. Now what is the coefficient of x? From this equation, from whatever this line is, let's call it line 2. Okay. That's minus 1 upon a. And what is the coefficient of x from the other equation? It's 2 upon 5. Now because they are parallel, that means the gradients are the same. So 2a equals to minus 5, which means a is equals to minus 5 upon 2. So I'm afraid the answer is not 2 upon 5. The answer is minus 5 upon 2, which apparently no one gave. I thought these questions were easy. So let me double check. Minus 2 upon 5. Nope. Nope. Okay, I'll explain this again. But the correct answer is minus 5 upon 2. Okay. Now listen up. I'll explain this again. Let me do this again. So dekho, first of all, the keyword over here is same gradient. Okay. Now same gradient as what? Same gradient as same gradient as line L. Now what's the gradient of line L? Let's find that out. 2x minus 5y equals to k. So let's make y the subject. 2x minus 5y equals to k. So 2x, now that we know what the value of k is, in fact, let's replace it with that. Okay. So 2x minus 4 equals to 5y. So now that means 2 upon 5x minus 4 upon 5 equals to y. So this is the equation of line L. Now from this line, we can see that the gradient is 2 upon 5. Okay. Now, so if the gradient is 2 upon 5, that means इस line का भी gradient क्या होगा? 2 upon 5 ही होगा ना? तो make y the subject. So ay is equals to minus x plus 3. Okay. Now if you make y the subject, you have minus x plus 3 upon a. अब you might think कि ये 1 mark के लिए बहुत ज़्यादा working है, but the thing is, a lot of the steps that I'm doing, I'm only doing so that you guys understand what I'm doing. It's not necessary for the examiner. So the gradient of this line is minus 1 upon a. So minus 1 upon a is equals to 2 upon 5. So now if you cross multiply, you have 2a, which is equal to minus 5. And a is equals to what? A is equals to minus 5 upon 2. Now there you go. That's your answer. अब बताएं, मज़ा आया? Pressure came over me. Well, too bad. आप ही ने कहा था ये तो आसान है. Okay, so let me give you guys another supposedly easy question. Okay, now this is like the mother of all coordinate geometry questions. If you guys are able to do this, then brilliant. That means you've understood everything there is in coordinate geometry to understand. But before you do that, I would like you guys to do this. And this is also paper 1, okay? So no calculator. There you go. Yes, this recording will be available. Don't worry about it. If there's a question with interconnected part and we got the first part wrong, but we have to use it in the other answers. Yeah, so you can use whatever value that you've gotten in the first part in the second part also. But let's say if you've done the second part correct, you will get marks. Okay, you will get something that's called error carried forward, and that will save you. One comma 5 upon 2. Sir, मैं भी जा रहा हूँ. Destroy. What do you mean by destroy? Okay, so let's see, what do we get? Minus 3 plus 5 upon 2, comma 4 plus 1 upon 2. So minus 3 plus 5 is 2, 2 upon 2 is 1, 4 plus 1 is 5, 5 upon 2, well, let's just write it as 5 upon 2. ठीक है, अगर आपकी ज़्यादा mental math अच्छी नहीं है तो please unnecessary दिमाग पे जोर ना दीजिएगा, just leave it in fraction form, okay? Then it says find the gradient, okay? So let's see what the gradient is going to be. 1 minus 4 over 5 minus minus 3. 1 minus 4 is minus 3, 5 minus minus 3 is 8, so here we have minus 3 upon 8. And there you go, that's your answer. Okay. Now here it says R is the point minus 6 comma 0, O is the point 0 0. Which of the points R or P is closer to O? Okay, so I'll attach this information over here. Okay. Now अब आपने इसमें तुक्का नहीं लगाना, you have to give logical reasoning also as to which point is closer. Okay. Point P. Okay. Easy peasy. Okay, what's the reason? Let's see. So let's find out the distance of point P from O. So how do we do that? We have O, which has coordinate 0 0. Okay. So OP is going to be 0 minus minus 3 whole squared plus 0 minus 4 whole squared. So 0 minus minus 3 is 9, 9 plus 16 is 25. Now I'll suggest that you leave it in square root form. Why? Because it'll be easier for you to compare. Or maybe not. Let's see. OP is equals to what? OP is equals to 5 units. Okay. Now let's find out the distance OR. OR के लिए we're going to do the exact same thing. So 0 minus minus 6 the whole thing square plus 0 minus 0 whole square. So 0 minus minus 6 is 6. Square root of which is 36, and then if you take the square root you get 6 units again. So there you go. It's the point P. Okay, what do we have to write down? Yeah, we have to write down which point is closer. So that's the point P. Okay. Alright, so now let me give you guys another question. Here it is. This one's fairly recent. You have to find out the equation of the perpendicular bisector. It's a 4-mark question. So altogether this is a 5-mark question of coordinate geometry. Chale, go ahead. Solve this. Okay, that's not irrelevant. That is a relevant question. How much time you need to spend on each question? So just do the math. You have a total of around 25 to 24 questions. Okay. So if you take, let's say, if let's say you take 80 marks and you Acha, wait a minute. Okay. So basically altogether you have the following: 80 marks and 2 hours. Okay, so 2 hours means 120 minutes. 120 divided by 80, so that's 1.5. So 1.5 ka matlab hai that you should not spend more than 90 seconds per mark. Okay, not more than 90 seconds per mark. When will inequality start? So we'll start it in a bit. Okay. Yes, I will give you guys a difficult question after this one, don't worry. बेटा expected threshold मैं कैसे बता दूँ? I don't know, but I think it's going to be on... I don't think it's going to be anything unusual. It's going to be the same as it has been. I think it's going to be on the higher side. Okay. Beta, what I'm telling you is the least. Okay. Now don't worry, I'll make a video on it very soon. Okay, as to how much time you need to spend. Okay. Yes, NETS is part of the 2023 syllabus. बेटा 2 दिन में पेपर है, आप मुझसे पूछ रहे हैं NETS part syllabus कैसे है या नहीं? Okay, now here's part A. You need to find out the midpoint. 3 plus minus 1 upon 2, comma 2 plus 10 upon 2. 3 plus minus 1 is 2, 2 upon 2 is 1. 2 plus 10 is 12, 12 upon 2 is 6. There you go. Okay, for the equation of the perpendicular bisector, first let's find out the gradient of AB. So that's going to be 10 minus 2 over minus 1 minus 3. So that's 8 upon minus 4, which means minus 2. That means the gradient of the perpendicular bisector is going to be 1 upon 2. So y is equals to half x plus c. Okay. Now in place of y, let's plug in 6. In place of x, let's plug in 1. And now we have... Achha, I really hope ke ye wali harkat koi na karo. Okay, 2 into 6 and then taking 1 over to the other side. So basically 6 is equals to 1 upon 2 plus c. And now 6 minus half is equals to c. Take the LCM. 11 upon 2 is the value of c. So y is equals to half x plus 11 upon 2 is your answer. There you go. Or you can write it as 2y minus x equals to 11. It's up to you guys. Okay, so what do you guys say? You guys want to do a difficult question now? Or should we do another easier question? So let's do one more question before I give you guys the mother of all questions. The mother of all coordinate geometry questions. Here it is. Sir, next time we should do coordinate geometry advanced. Most of us have a huge difficulty during applications. Okay, chalo. I didn't intend on streaming coordinate geometry of advanced, but chalo, I'll do it. You should take my job in next year. Go ahead. Go right ahead. There is an opening anyway. Namaz break. Okay, yeah, that's a good thing to point out. Okay, so let's do this question. Let's take a namaz break and then we'll do the mother of all coordinate geometry questions and then we'll do inequalities. Kya khayal hai? Okay, if you're giving your even if you're giving an exam in October, November, even then NETS is still part of the syllabus. Okay, the syllabus is not going to change up until 2025, and I think even in 2025 NETS is still part of the syllabus. I don't remember exactly what the syllabus is for 2025. There are some major changes. Okay, major changes for IGCSE actually, not for O levels. Okay. क्वेश्चन नज़र नहीं आ रहा? क्वेश्चन क्यों नहीं नज़र आ रहा बेटा? How is that possible? Okay, khair. I fixed it. I hope you can see it now. What's in nets? बेटा आपका पेपर कब है जो आप लोग मुझसे सवाल पूछ रहे हैं? No changes in 2023. Don't worry about it. Okay, so -8 or 8, make up your mind. So 3y, that means we're going to plug in y as 7 plus 2x equals to 5. Now, basically, you can plug in h in place of x if you want. So plus 2h equals to 5. So that means 14 plus 2h equals to 5, which means 2h is equals to 5 minus 14. What's that equal to? 5 minus 14. Actually, wait a minute. I think I've done something wrong. 3y. Okay, that's 21. Oops. So 2h equals to 5 minus 21. That is what? Minus 16. So h equals to minus 8. Yep, there you go. Minus 8. Okay, then it says line L is perpendicular. Okay, anyone who has given the answer to part B, I can see Ramisa has given the answer to that. Y equals to 3 upon 2x plus 19. Okay, Ramisa, hold on to your answer. Let's see if that's correct or not. We'll find that out in a minute. Yeah, I figured 7 into 3 is 21. You're right. Thank you for pointing that out. Where did the 6 come from? Kaun sa question, beta? Beta, we plugged in a point, the midpoint of the line AB, because we are finding out the equation of the perpendicular bisector. Okay, that's where the 6 came from. Okay, so let's do this now. So y is equals to, okay, now first of all, let's highlight what's important. It says perpendicular to this line. So perpendicular means what? Perpendicular means negative reciprocal. Okay, remember, perpendicular means what? Perpendicular means negative reciprocal. So 3y equals minus 2x plus 5. Then if you make y the subject, so y is equals to minus 2 upon 3x plus 5 upon 3. Now the gradient of this line is equal to what? The gradient of this line is minus 2 upon 3. That means the gradient of line L, of which the equation we need to find, is going to be what? Is going to be 3 upon 2, negative reciprocal. And the point through which it's passing is P. Let's write down the coordinates of P, minus 8 comma 7. H comma 7, but now that we know what the value of H is, so it's minus 8 comma 7. So y is equals to 3 upon 2x plus C. So we plug in 7 in place of y, and we plug in minus 8 in place of x. So there you go. 2 1s are 2 into minus 4. 7 is equals to minus 12 plus c. C is equals to 19. So there you go. Y is equals to 3 upon 2x plus 19 is your final answer. So that's it. Or of course you can write it as 2y plus 3x equals to 2y equals to 3x plus 38. Why 3 upon 2? Beta, it's perpendicular. Perpendicular means we have to take the negative reciprocal. So don't forget that. It's perpendicular. Perpendicular होगा तो gradient same थोड़ी होगा. It's going to be a negative reciprocal. Okay. Okay. So shall we take a break for namaz? 10-minute break for namaz? Okay, great. Here it is. Okay, so we're back. Let's resume, shall we? So, pretty easy. Till now, I guess it's time that you guys do the most difficult question. I said there are more difficult questions also, but here, anyway, let's do the one that I mentioned earlier. Kan jag också alltså. Okay, here it is. 14 it is. Good job. Okay, so do the first part. If you guys are able to do the first part, no big deal, honestly. You guys should be able to do it. But it's if you guys are able to do part B, then yes, that's a pretty big deal. Then you have my respect. What about the coordinates of ratio? Coordinates of ratio, what do you mean by that? Can you elaborate? Oh, you mean what about the question where we have to? Okay. Yeah, fine, we can do that question also. We can do that question also. Okay, anyone who has the answer? Do the first part. Oh yeah, I just realized 5 more subscribers, still 45k. When will you take AdMath streams? Inshallah, either tomorrow, starting tomorrow, or starting Monday. In fact, not even Monday, starting Tuesday, because Tuesday is Math P1, so Tuesday say I'll start AdMaths. Okay. So anyone who has the answer to the first part? Yes, no. Chale, I'll do it. Okay, I'll do 4. Acha, okay, talking about 4. Okay. So here's the first part. The first part says if the gradient of AB is 0, so here's A and here's B. Acha, now why did I make a horizontal line? The reason why I made a horizontal line is because the question said that the gradient is 0. Okay, see, remember I said that you have to remember the cases of what a line is going to look like if the gradient is so and so. So if the line has gradient if the line has 0, that means it is definitely a horizontal line. Okay. Acha, Rafin, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. So you're right, many channels are getting taken down, but those are the ones that are solving past papers that aren't officially out. Okay. So basically, the length of this line is 10. Okay. Now, if M is the midpoint, notice that the question says the coordinates of the midpoint of line AB are 1, 2. So that means this is going to be 5 and this is also going to be 5. Okay. So one thing we can say for sure is that on a horizontal line, one coordinate will not change, and that is always the y coordinate. Remember, if you have a horizontal line, okay, if you're traveling horizontally, the y coordinate will not change. Okay, the y coordinate will remain the same. So just like that, the y coordinate of B is going to be 2 and the y coordinate of A will be 2 also. Okay, so one thing we know for sure is the y coordinate of A and B, but sadly that's not going to get you any mark. Okay, now the thing is, how do we find out the x coordinate? So here's how we find out the x coordinate. When you're moving 5 units towards the right, what you're going to do is you're going to take the existing x coordinate, which is 1, and in it you're going to add 5. So 1 plus 5 equals to what? 1 plus 5 equals to 6. And then when you're moving 1 unit towards the left, so you'll take the existing x coordinate, that means the x coordinate of the midpoint, and from it you're going to subtract 5. So 1 minus 5 equals to what? Equals to minus 4. So there you go, fellas. That's your answer. Okay. That is your answer. Okay. Now, part A, if you guys have done part A, that's great. Now, here's part B. Doing part B correctly is a bigger challenge. Okay, so let's do part B. Now, part B says, if the gradient of AB is 3 upon 4, find the coordinates of A and B. Okay. Now, 3 upon 4 basically means that we have a positive sloping line. Okay. So that means the line is going to look something like this. Now, notice that whatever the question has said in question number 14, okay, with the whatever information you're given with the question itself, applies to not only part A but applies to part B also. Okay. But whatever information you're given in part A does not apply to part B anymore. Okay, so whatever part A was a different scenario, part B was a different scenario. All right. Now, here's what we're going to do. What we're going to do now is the following. Now we are going to find out the coordinates of. Now we're going to find out the coordinates of A and B using this, using the information over here. Okay. A equals to 1, B equals to minus 3. Okay, maybe that's the correct answer. Let's see. Let's see what the correct answer is. So basically, here's the midpoint. Okay, let's see what the coordinates of the midpoint are. That's given to us at the very beginning. It's 1, 2. Okay, here is A and here is point B. Okay, now. So basically, you're given the gradient of this line is 3 upon 4. Okay, so if the gradient of this line is 3 upon 4, and if the length of this line is 10, that means from M to B is going to be 5 and from A to M is also going to be 5. Okay, so now remember, what is the gradient? The gradient is 3 upon 4. Gradient is actually the ratio of rise to run. That means the ratio of rise to run between 2 points is 3:4. Okay, now if the gradient is 3 upon 4, what does that mean? Here's what that means. That means this is going to be 3. Okay, and this is going to be 4. This is going to be 3 and this is going to be 4. Why? Because this is the rise, okay, and this is the run. Now it makes sense also. Why does it make sense? Because if you use Pythagoras theorem, 4 square plus 3 square equals to 5 square. So there you go. 4 square, which is 16, 3 square, which is 9, 16 plus 9 is 25, which is equal to 5 square, and that's 25 as well. Okay, now that means the same is true over here also. Over here also the gradient is what? The basically the gradient is 3 upon 4. That means the rise is 3. Okay, and the run is what? The run is 4. Now, this is how we're going to find out the coordinates of A and B. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase this for now. Okay, and write it somewhere over here. So here is point M, which has coordinates what? Which has coordinates 1, 2. Okay, now, and this is what? This is 4. Ab dekho. Now we need to travel from M to B. So how exactly are we going to travel from M to B? Here's what we're going to do. The existing x coordinate of M is 1. Now if I move 4 coordinates to the right, if I move 4 units to the right, now notice that currently we're at 1, and if we move 4 units towards the right, what does that mean? That means 1 plus 4. And just like that, the current y coordinate of M is 2, and if we move 3 units up, what does that mean? That means 2 plus 3. So what do we have now? We have 1 plus 4, which is, whoopsie, We have 1 plus 4, which is equal to what? Which is equal to 5. And we have 2 plus 3, which is equal to what? Which is equal to 5. And I just realized these are the coordinates of B and not A. So 5 comma 5 are the coordinates of B. Okay. Now let's do the same for coordinates of, oh yes, 45,000. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Acha. Now let me talk about that in detail. First, let's get through this question. Okay. I know that was a very half-hearted celebration. So we'll do that. First, let's get through this question. Okay. Now let's say we have to go from M to B. Now how do we go from M to A? Sorry. So M is at 1 comma 2. Now let's start with the y coordinate. The existing y coordinate is 2, and if we move 3 units down, that means the y coordinate of A is going to be 2 minus 3. Okay, why? Because we're moving 2 units down. And just like that, if we move 4 units to the left from M, that means it's going to be 1 minus 4. So 1 minus 4 equals to what? 1 minus 4 equals to minus 3, and 2 minus 3 equals to what? 2 minus 3 is equals to minus 1. So there you go. The coordinates of A are minus 3 and minus 1. Now there you go. I can see that a lot of you have given the answer, but sadly काफ़ी कम लोगों ने correct answer दिया. So Mariam, your answer is correct. Good job. Who else? Who else has given the correct answer? Acha, if you swap the places of A and B, that's fine. Okay, if let's say you write the coordinates of B over here and the coordinates of A over here, that's fine. Okay. 1 comma minus 3, and Javeria, your answer is partially correct. Okay, whoever this Rampagers is, your answer is correct. Good job. Okay. अच्छा, अब sadly इसका कोई और तरीका नहीं है. Okay, I know you guys may be interested in finding out an easier method. Sadly, there is no easier method. The easier method involves a lot of calculations, and for paper 1 it doesn't make sense. Okay, so many calculations for paper 1 doesn't make sense. Okay, now I'll give you guys a summary of it. Okay. So basically, long story short, this is what the situation is. Here is M, okay, and if from M you're moving 4 units to the right and you're moving 3 units up. So what you need to do is you need to take the coordinates of M and in it add 4 and 3, 4 in X and 3 in Y. So the coordinates of M were what? The coordinates of M were 1 comma 2. So here's what we did. We wrote down the coordinates of M, 1 and 2, and in the X coordinate we added 4. So that's how we got 5, and in the Y coordinate also, which was 2 initially, we added 3. So that's what happened. Just a second. Yeah, sorry about that. I don't mean to show you guys that picture again and again. That was just a wrong swipe. Okay, so basically here's 3 and here's 4. Now if you're going to B, and if you want to go to B, here's what you're going to do. You're going to take the coordinates of M, which happen to be 1 comma 2. You're going to subtract 3 from the Y coordinate, so that means it's going to be 2 comma 3, and you're going to subtract 4 from the X coordinate because you're moving 4 units to the left and you're moving 3 units down. Okay, so technically it's like vectors basically. Okay, so the X coordinate of M was 1, and 1 में से 4 subtract किया, so this is what we get, minus 3 minus 1. Now you can change the order of A and B, that's fine, but you can't change the X and Y coordinate. Okay, you can't swap that. You can't swap the X and Y coordinate, but you can change the order of A and B. Now let me pull out the examiner report of this. Okay, इसके examiner report में I'm sure कोई मज़े की चीज़ लिखी हुई होगी. And I'm sure this must have been like the most challenging part of this paper, this May-June 2016 paper. ER 4024. This is question number 14, part B. Paper 12, question 14, part B. So just hang in there. I'm going to pull out the examiner report and I'm going to read it out to you guys. Okay, so I'll take a screenshot of the examiner report and share it with you guys. Okay, so this is the examiner report. Let me bring this here. And I want you guys to read part B. Notice what it says. It says in this part of the question, using the given gradient to sketch the situation simplified the problem. Okay. A sketch showing the point 1, 2 with a movement of 4 in the x direction and 3 in the y direction gives a gradient of 3 upon 4. The sketch then leads directly to the coordinates of a and b. Many candidates attempted to find the equation of the line, but even if this was found correctly, it seldom led to the correct coordinates. It was also common to see many complex calculations involving Pythagoras theorem, which were also unsuccessful. So sadly, there is no other way to do it. Okay, the examiner is telling you that there is no other way to do it. The safest and the most efficient way to do this is by making a sketch. Okay, so now you don't have to lose your confidence because of this question. Okay, this is like perhaps the most difficult question in this is perhaps the most difficult question of this paper. Okay, you know how there are always those some distinguishing questions distinguishing between like an A or an A star, or sometimes an A star or a distinction. So yes, that's what it is. So will this come for 4024? Beta, of course this will come for 4024. I mean, what exactly do you see written over here? It's 4024. So I am solving 4024 questions. So of course it's going to come for 4024. Okay. Superman, we would be able to do the same, convert the gradient by applying Pythagoras theorem. So easy था बेटा, एक दफ़ा जब क्वेश्चन हो जाता है फिर तो सारे आसान लगते हैं. Okay, now, so how about we do inequalities? You guys want to do more of coordinate geometry, or should we do inequalities? What do you guys suggest? More inequalities or coordinate geometry? Let me unhide and see what we have over here. This is fairly easy. Can we do probability? No, we can't do probability right now. Either we're going to do coordinate geometry or we're going to do inequalities. Coordinate geometry. Okay. Now I saw a question which I thought I'd make you guys solve. Now basically there's another question in which you have a bit of coordinate geometry and you have a bit of trigonometry. Although it's a fairly old question, but no harm in doing it. So let's do this question. This is October, November 2005. You guys weren't born then, right? Okay. I say, if I'm not wrong. We will do inequalities also, don't worry about it. First do this. Okay, this is a difficult question. So where will you... Okay, so you usually after the stream, you will notice that I share it I share it in the description. Okay, so like for example, this PDF and the notes that we take today, you'll find it in the description. Okay, so I was born in 1905. Okay, that's... Oh yeah, 45k. Yes, I just realized I hit 45k. I was in the middle of the question when you guys pointed that out, so thank you. I appreciate it. What's average marks per A? Again, depends on the threshold. I don't know what the threshold is going to be, and the threshold depends on the difficulty level of the paper. If the paper is difficult, then the threshold is going to be higher. If the paper is easy, then the threshold... No, wait. Ulta bol diya. Yeah, if the paper is difficult, the threshold is going to be lower. If the paper is easy, the threshold is going to be higher. Sir Saad equals to... Oh, thank you, Jannat. Good to have you here. 2.5 comma 2, I think. So why do we have two different answers? Find the coordinates of S. Okay. So how do we find out the coordinates of S? Notice that PQRS is a parallelogram. So again, you can use a bit of vectors, you can use a bit of coordinate geometry, or you can use a bit of common sense also. Okay. Now, if you use a bit of common sense, what's this length? This length, as you can see, is 5 units. So that means S will also be 5 units away from R. So this is where S has to be. And what is 5 units away from R? So what's not going to change? Since PQ is horizontal, SR will also be horizontal. So one thing is for sure is that as far as the x coordinate of S is, as far as the y coordinate of S is concerned, that's for sure going to be what? That is for sure going to be 4. Now we don't know what the y coordinate is, but we don't know what the x coordinate is, but the y coordinate is definitely 4. Okay. Now what do we do about the x coordinate? Now at the moment you are at x coordinate 9. Now if you move 5 units towards the left, so what's 9 minus 5? That's 4. So there you go. Now the reason why you're given this, actually, you can use this also. You can use this to sort of anticipate where S is going to be and then find out the exact coordinates. So there you go. That's it. That's your answer. So there you go. Here is your parallelogram PQRS. Okay. So what are the coordinates of S? 4 comma 4. Okay. Then the coordinates of B. Sorry, the coordinates of the midpoint, or the answer to part B, find the coordinates of the midpoint of PR. So we have the coordinates of P, we have the coordinates of R, so that's enough information. So here's what we're going to do, minus 4 plus 9 upon 2. Okay, so you guys are giving the answer to part P. Alright, now I get it. So minus 4 plus 9 is 5, 5 upon 2 is 2.5, or you can write it as 5 upon 2. So 2.5 comma 2. Yeah, that's the correct answer. 2.5 comma 2. Okay. Then it says find find the equation of the line RS. So the equation of line RS, it's a horizontal line. So in a horizontal line, the only thing that you need to know is basically the y coordinate of any one point. So if you take point R, you can see that the y coordinate is 4, and that's good enough. Okay. The equation is going to be y equals to 4. Why? Because if, let's say, you extend this line further, if you extend this, you will see that it's going to cut the y-axis at 4. So the equation is going to be y equals to 4 anyway. Okay. Now the equation of line QR. So for QR, you'll have to work hard. Okay. So the coordinates of Q are 1 comma 0. So you'll first have to find out the gradient. So the gradient would be 4 minus 0 over 4 minus 1. So that's equal to 4 upon 3. I say, 4 minus 0. Yeah, 4 upon 3. And now we have 4 upon 3x plus c. Now in order to find out c, we need a point through which the line is passing. So I'm going to go with 1 and 0. So 1 comma 0, that means 0 in place of y, 1 in place of x, makes no difference to 4 upon 3. So c equals to what? C equals to minus 4 upon 3. So y is equals to 4 upon 3x minus 4 upon 3 is your final answer. And there you go. That's it. Okay. Y equals to 4 upon 3x minus 4 upon 3. Now what about part D? No, wait a minute. I think that was the equation. This is the answer to part D, because I didn't write the answer to part C in the appropriate place. Then the question says, find the area of the parallelogram. Okay, how will I find out the area of the parallelogram? What is the area of parallelogram equal to? And bear in mind this is paper 1, okay? This is paper 1, it's not paper 2. I had a dream yesterday of all the O-level students planning to do horribly in the CI, and the threshold went really low. I ended up getting A's and A stars. It was a dream, sadly. Yeah. Well, you can dream whatever you want. Okay. Ayan, your answer to part D is incorrect. You might want to recheck. So why don't you use y equals to mx plus c in part C? I mean, you can use y equals to mx plus c in part C, but you do really have to if you can see that the gradient is 0 and you only want the You only want the point where the line is cutting the y-axis. So do you really have to do that? No, you don't. You have to just find out the y coordinate of any one point and use that. Y equals to 4 is going to be your answer. Also, you guys are saying the equation of QR is incorrect. Let me check. 4 minus 0 over 4 minus 1, that's 4 upon 3. So I don't see anything wrong with that, honestly. You plug in 0 in place of y, c turns out to be, and 1 in place of x, c turns out to be minus 4 upon 3. I don't see anything wrong with that. Isn't the coordinate of r 9 comma 4? Uh-oh. Oops. Okay. You're right. You guys are right. The coordinates of r are 9 comma 4. Okay. This is wrong. Okay. Now back to the drawing board. So basically, the gradient will be 4 minus 0 over 9 minus 1. So that's 4 upon 8, which is equal to 1 upon 2. So now we have y is equals to half x plus c. Now we can use 1 comma 0. So 0 in place of y, 1 upon 2 in place of x, 1 in place of x plus c. So c turns out to be, अभी भी सही किया है अभी भी गलत किया है 4 minus 0 4 9 upon 9 minus 1 8 4 upon 8 that's 1 upon 2. So c is equals to minus 1 upon 2. Okay, y equals to, actually मुझे पता था मैं गलत कर रहा हूँ. I was just checking if you guys are paying attention or not. That was just a prank, you know. Yeah, y equals to half x minus half is the correct answer. Okay, now part E. So basically for part E, okay, Shazia, thank you for pointing that out. I fixed it. Okay, now, so basically for the area, this is the formula that you're going to use. Area equals to, remember, base into height. Okay, so when you're finding out the area of triangle, it's half into base into height, because the parallelogram is twice of the triangle, so when you multiply it by 2, it's just base into height. So remember this formula, okay? Area of parallelogram equals to base into height. I'll write it down over here. So area of parallelogram, here's part E in fact, area is equals to base into height. सारे टीचर्स फ्रैंक क्यों, मुझे क्या पता बेटा, मैं तो अपनी बात कर रहा हूँ, अभी तो मैं प्रैंक कर रहा था आप लोगों को. So basically what is the base? The base, if you look at it, the base is from 1 to minus 4, so that's 5. Okay. And then if you look at the height, what is the height of this parallelogram? The height is equal to 4. Okay, so here's the height is equal to 4. So the height is equal to 4. Now the base is equals to 5, the height is equals to 4, and that's it. 5 into 4, so that's equal to what? That's equal to 20. So 20 is the answer to part E. Yep, this time there's no prank. This time the answer is legit 20. Okay. Sir, parallel lines का gradient same होता है? Yep, parallel lines have the same gradient. Okay. Okay, yes, you can use that concept, that the midpoint of PR is equals to the midpoint of QS. You can use that concept also. Okay. All right. So what now? More coordinate geometry or inequalities? Should we do inequalities now? No, I don't teach further math. I don't teach further math. Inequalities? Okay. Chalo. Sounds good. Sounds good. So there are some questions which involve inequalities over here. So here's what we're going to do. Those of you who are saying coordinate geometry, now inequalities is mostly related to coordinate geometry. So you won't find a question, you will rarely find questions that involve no concept of coordinate geometry. There will be some concept of coordinate geometry involved. Okay, so let's do this question. This is a question which deals with a bit of coordinate geometry as well as inequalities. So before we do this, let's do a few concepts related to inequalities. Now there's only one concept related to inequalities around which all of inequalities will revolve. Okay, so and that is, remember the four cases. Okay, now these four cases are actually your foundation of not only inequalities, but they're also your foundation of coordinate geometry. Okay, now, so basically, here's your x-axis, here's your y-axis, here's your x-axis, here's your y-axis, here's your x-axis, here's your y-axis, here's your x-axis, here's your y-axis. Acha, remember now what we're doing is we're doing inequalities. Okay, and we're doing the graph part. Okay, we're not doing the solving part, we're doing the graph part, the shading part. Okay, now as you know, a straight line is one of four types. Okay, it can be either an upward sloping line, it can be a downward sloping line, it can be a horizontal line, or it can be a vertical line. Okay, now we know exactly what the equation of each line will look like. So for the first case, it's going to be y equals to mx plus c, where m is positive. For the second case also, it's going to be y equals to mx plus c, but in this case, m is what? M is negative. In the third case, it's going to be y equals to c only because m is 0. In the fourth case, it's going to be x equals to b only, where b is the point where the line cuts the x-axis, because the gradient is what? The gradient is infinity. Now, relative to every line, there's going to be a region that is greater than the line, and there's going to be a region that is lesser than the line. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. All the region that's greater than, I'm going to shade that in green, and the region that is lesser than, I'm going to shade that in red. So here's a line. Okay, y equals to mx plus c is defining the region that is on the line, basically defining the region, the region that is, or all the points that are on the line. Okay, if let's say you have to identify, or you have to shade the region which is basically defined by, or which basically contains everything that's greater than this line, then which region are you going to shade? You're going to shade the region that is above. Okay, and just like that, the region that is lesser than this line is going to be the region that's below the line. Okay, now for the second case also, remember, if you have a downward sloping line, the region above the line is the region that's greater than, and the region below the line is the region that is lesser than. Okay, in the case of a horizontal line also, remember, the region that is above the line is the region that is greater than the line, the region that is below the line is the region that is lesser than the line. In the case of vertical line, the region that's on the right is greater than, the region that is on the left is lesser than. Okay, now this is one concept. Now remember this, that sometimes we make a dotted line and sometimes we make a solid line. Now when do we do what? When do we make a dotted line and when do we make a solid line? Question for you guys. When is it that we make a solid line and when is it that we make a dotted line? I'm having trouble remembering the formulas for some topics. Just keep on writing down the formulas again and again. Okay, just write down the formula once. While you're looking at it, write down the formula. I mean, do that 2-3 times and then write them again without looking at it. Okay, that's the best advice that I can give you, honestly. Okay, so when there is only greater than or lesser than, that is when we make a solid line. But when there is greater than or equal to or lesser than or equal to, then we make a wait a minute, I think I said it the other way around. When there is only greater than or lesser than, we make a dotted line. When there is greater than or equal to or lesser than or equal to, we make a solid line. Okay. So now also remember one thing. Sometimes there is an exception. Okay. Now there is an exception over here. Sometimes the question will say inside the triangle, and it will write the word inside in bold. Okay, inside the triangle ABC, something like that. Okay, we'll do a question so that you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. So if the question says inside the triangle ABC and the word inside is written in bold letters, in that case, even though it's a solid line, but the sign that we're going to use is going to be either greater than or lesser than. Okay, so just remember that. Sometimes the question will say that it's the region inside the triangle or whatever, and in that case, even though you will have a solid line, but in that case the sign that we're going to use is greater than or lesser than. Okay, when we do past paper questions, you guys will know what I'm talking about. Okay, acha, also remember one thing. If let's say you have minus y is greater than 3x plus, or let's say 3x minus 5, so what do? If you multiply both sides by minus, then what happens? This becomes y, this becomes minus 3x plus 5. But what happens to the sign? What happens to the sign? The sign flips. Yes, points on the line. If the points on the line are not included, then we use either greater than or lesser than. Okay, so in this case, the sign flips. So you can make a note of this if you want to, that whenever both sides of the inequality are multiplied by minus, the inequality sign flips. So I'll write it down over here. Chalo. Whenever both sides of the inequality are multiplied by minus, the sign flips. Okay, equals to में तो पता नहीं चलता, but when it's an inequality, remember the sign flips. Okay, now let's do a few questions. Let's do this question here. So this question here says the lines 3x plus y, the line 3y plus x equals to 3 and the line y equals to x plus 3 are shown in the diagram. Find the gradient of the line 3y plus x equals to 3. Again, so like I said, with inequalities also, you'll find some questions related to coordinate geometry. So y is equals to minus 1 upon 3x plus 3 upon 3. So the gradient of this line clearly is minus 1 upon 3. Okay, there you go. Now part B. Part B says on the diagram, shade and label with region R the region defined by the inequalities. Okay, so first thing you got to be able to do is you got to be able to look at the line and identify which line is which. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to color code the lines for you guys to make it easy. So in fact, I'm going to number the lines to make it easy. So let's say this is equation number 1. So this line, we over here made y the subject, so we're looking at a line which has a negative gradient. Okay, and the y-intercept is what? The y-intercept is 1. Now, how many lines do we have over here that have a negative gradient and y-intercept 1? Just this one over here. So this is basically line number 1. And then here we have y equals to x plus 3. So y equals to x plus 3 means that we're looking at a line with positive gradient and y-intercept 2. So that means it's this line right here. Okay. Now we're going to begin the shading part. Now make sure to read the question carefully. Sometimes the question will say shade the wanted region. Sometimes the question will say shade the unwanted region. Okay. Ukraine का बेटा threshold same ही होता है. आप Ukraine से हो, Russia से हो. Okay, the threshold is the same. Anyway, so basically, yeah. So whether you shade the wanted region or unwanted region, ultimately you have to place the R, letter R correctly. So what I'm going to do is, here's what I'm going to do. This is a personal preference. Okay, I'm going to shade the unwanted region. Okay, I personally prefer to shade the unwanted region. That means whatever the inequality is defining, so if the inequality defines the region above the line, I will shade the region below the line. Okay, now whenever you're shading the unwanted region, remember you're looking for the region that's free from all the shading. Okay, so I'll write it down. I'll write it down over here. So if you are shading the unwanted region, look for the region which is free from all shading, okay, which is free from all shading, and in that case that becomes your region R, okay, so that becomes your region R. If however you're shading the wanted region, if you are shading the wanted region, look for the region where all shading intersects. Okay, that becomes your region R. So I'm shading the unwanted region. Okay, so if I'm shading the unwanted region, what does that mean? 3y plus, before you shade, make sure that y is positive. Okay, 3y plus x is greater than or equal to 3. That means the region that is above this line. So what region am I going to shade? I'm going to shade the region that is below this line. Then the question says y is lesser than or equal to x plus 3. That means the region below this line. So what region am I going to shade? I'm going to shade the region above the line. Then the question says x is greater than or equal to 0. By the way, x is greater than 0 is the equation of the y-axis. Okay, remember that. X is equal to 0 is the equation of the y-axis, and y equals to 0 is the equation of the x-axis. So greater than means on the right side of the y-axis, but because we have decided that we're going to shade the unwanted region, so we will shade the region that's on the left. Okay, yeah, so if I shade the region that is on the left, that means this is the region that we're talking about. Now which region is it that is free from all the shading? It's this region. So this becomes your answer. Okay, now as always, take a good look at it. Let me know if you have any questions, especially the unwanted and wanted region part को clear कर लें. उसमें अगर किसी का कोई सवाल है, so feel free to ask. Sir, the question paper for 0580 has been released with answer. Will you make... No, I'm not going to make a video on that. It hasn't been released. People have basically leaked it. It's not official. Yes, 991 ES is allowed. Okay. If you can't see any form of working in your calculator, it's allowed. You don't have to worry about it. Okay. Now, let's do another question. Let's do another question which involves a bit of inequalities. Okay, let's do this. So this question says, the diagram shows triangle RST. Write down the gradient of line ST. Okay. So how do you find out the gradient of line ST? So that's pretty easy, finding out the gradient of line ST. So you can use the coordinates of S and T. So S ke coordinates are 0, 2. T has coordinates 6, 6. So it's going to be 6 minus 2 over 6 minus 0. So that's 4 upon 6, which is equal to 2 upon 3. So there you go, 2 upon 3. Then it says the equation of a line parallel to ST. Okay, so how do we write down the equation of a line parallel to ST? So parallel to ST means that the gradient is going to be the same. So y is equals to 2 upon 3x. Now you can write down any other value of c. Notice that the equation of line ST is y is equals to 2 upon 3x plus 2. Now it can be plus 1, plus 3, plus 4, plus 5, doesn't matter. So let's write that down. Let's write plus 2. वापस समझा दें. Okay, I'll explain this again, don't worry. Then it says the equation of line with gradient 3 that passes through S. Okay, so gradient 3 means m equals to 3. Okay, and S has coordinates 0, 2. So what does that mean? That means y is equals to 3x plus 2 is your final answer. Why is that? That's because y equals to 3x plus c. And then if you plug in 0, 2, so y ki jagah 2, x ki jagah 0 plus c. So c is equals to 2. So y is equals to 3x plus 2. Okay, part B. Part B says one of the inequalities that define the shaded region is x is greater than or lesser than or equal to 6. Write down the other two inequalities that define this region. Okay, so let's do this question, then I'll explain the previous question to you guys, and then we'll do some more questions of inequalities as well. Don't worry. Okay, so here it goes. It says write down the other two inequalities that define this region. So x is lesser than or equal to 6, that means it's talking about this line. This line has equation x equals to 6. C1 kaise hoga beta? C2 hoga, because it's passing through S and the coordinates of S are 0, 2. Okay. Now before you can write down the other two inequalities, you have to first find out the other two equations. Okay. So the other two equations, this equation will be y equals to 2 because it's a horizontal line, and the equation of this line will be, as we've already found out the gradient, 2 upon 3x. And what's the y-intercept? When you can eyeball the y-intercept, you don't need to plug in a point formally and find it out. It's just going to be 2 straight away. Okay. Now one inequality is already given, x is lesser than or equal to 6. What about the other two inequalities? Let's look at y equals to 2. Now the region that we want is above the line. So what is it going to be? It's going to be greater than or equal to 2. Okay. And then this line has equation y is equals to 2 upon 3x plus 2. The region that we want, the shaded region, is below the line. So it's going to be lesser than, and it's going to be lesser than or equal to. So y is lesser than or equal to 2 upon 3x plus 2. And there you go. That's your answer. Walaikum salam. You're welcome, Faris. I'm happy for you. Okay, it's not going to be greater than, it's going to be greater than or equal to. Okay, it's not going to be greater than, it's going to be greater than or equal to. Acha, so I've taken out some questions which have inequalities only. Okay, so let's do a few of these questions also. Okay, let's do like 2-3 of these questions, and then we'll end it there. Okay, or maybe we can do another stream where I solve more questions. Okay, let's see. So why aren't we doing y is greater than 2? Why is y greater than or equal to 2? Okay, so the reason why we're doing that is because notice what sign has the question used. It's used lesser than or equal to. Okay, and it doesn't say anywhere where you have to define the region inside RST. It doesn't say anything like that. Okay, we don't always look at the line. Your question is valid. Okay, we don't always look at the line. We look at, first of all, we look at the words, the wording that the examiner is using, and number 2, we look at, the examiner will always give you one inequality. So whatever that inequality is, we follow that and we give our answer according to that. Acha, haan, pishla question. Okay, so let me explain to you the previous question also. So in this question, we decided that we're going to shade the unwanted region. Okay, so 3y plus x is greater than or equal to 3 is basically the equation of this line. Greater than means the region above the line, so we decided to shade the region below the line. So that's why this is what we shaded. Y is lesser than or equal to x plus 3 means the region below the line. Since we decided that we're going to shade the unwanted region, we shaded the region above. X is greater than or equal to 0 means the region that's on the right side of the y-axis, but since we decided that we're going to shade the unwanted region, we shaded the region that's on the left. And since we've shaded the unwanted region, remember to look for the region that is free from all the shading. That's this region, and that's it. This is what the answer is. Now, the question will not tell you what region you have to shade, whether it's the wanted or the unwanted. That is something that you decide yourself. If, of course, the question has told you what region you have to shade, then you don't have any except. I mean, then you don't have a choice. Okay, you have to follow what the question says. Okay, let's solve this question. Let's see what this says. This question says the region R is defined by these inequalities. Find and label region R. Okay, So first of all, you'll have to draw these straight lines. Now this question, when it came in 2020, I think a question similar to this came in 2018 also. I don't remember exactly, but a question similar to this came in 2018 as well. And when it did, it came as a surprise to a lot of students because it was the first time where there were two inequalities used. Okay, but if you know the concept of inequality as well, this shouldn't be a surprise to you. So basically, here's what you have to do. X is greater than or equal to 1, lesser than or equal to 5 means this. Means that you're going to make two vertical lines, x equals to 1 and x equals to 5. So here's one vertical line, x equals to 1, and here's the other vertical line, x equals to 5. Okay? So I'm going to color code it so you guys can see the lines that I'm drawing. Okay. Then you have this. Here also we're going to make two lines, y equals to 0 and y equals to 4. So y equals to 0, as we know, is the x-axis, so you don't really have to draw that, but just for the sake of emphasizing on it, I'll draw it. So y equals to 0 and y equals to 4, here are the two lines. Then the third line, which is y is equal to 3 minus x. Now how do you make a line which contains x and y both? Well, you assume points. Okay, so we can assume a few points over here. Let me do this in green. Okay, so everything that's related to this, I'll do it in green, green, green. Now, normally we assume a negative value of 0 and positive, but here there's no point in assuming negative because we don't have room for negative. Okay, so 0, if you plug in 0, what do you get? 3 minus 0 is 3. If you plug in 1, what do you get? 3 minus 1 is 2. If you plug in 2, what do you get? 3 minus 2 is 1. So 0, 3 is going to be over here. 1 comma 2 is going to be over here, and 2 comma 1 is going to be over here. So this is the line that we're looking at. Okay, now this will probably get you, I think, 2 marks. Okay, drawing all the lines correctly will give you 2 marks. Now we have to shade. So x is greater than or equal to 1, lesser than or equal to 5 means what? Means we're going to be on the right side of this line and we're going to be on the left side of this line. So here let's say that I'm shading the wanted region. Okay, now I am shading the wanted region. So here's what I'm going to do. अब आपने shading ज़रा थोड़ा neatly करनी है. ये नहीं कि आप ऐसे shade कर लें कि पूरा सवाल ही छुप जाए. Okay, so be fine with your shading. Okay, so greater than or equal to 1 means this, lesser than or equal to 5 means this region. Okay, then the question says y is greater than or equal to 0, which means what? Which means the region above this line. And then the question says y is lesser than or equal to 4, which means the region below this line. Okay, then when the question says y is greater than or equal to 3 minus x means the region above this line, so that's what we're going to shade. Now since we have shaded the wanted region, look for the region where all the shaded regions are intercepting, or you can say all the shaded parts are intersecting. So that's this region, and this is the region R. And there you go, that's your final answer. Okay, take a good look at it. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Okay, yes, Moise, I know the question you're talking about. I'll do that. Just a minute. I have that lined up, don't worry. Yes, Moise, I know the question you're talking about. You're talking about this question. I have this lined up. Chill करें आप. 4024 2015 paper 12 question 11. Is that an inequalities question? Chances are I might have taken it out already if it's a... If you shade the unwanted region, then remember what I wrote here. Look for the region that is free from all the shading. Okay. Okay, so let's do another difficult question. Let's do this one. Okay, so this is from May June 2021 paper 11, so it's fairly recent. It says the line 2y equals to x is drawn on the grid. Okay, on the grid draw the graph of y equals to 2. So y equals to 2 means it's going to be a horizontal line. There you go. X plus y plus x equals to 4. So again, before you make this line, you have to make y the subject. So if you make y the subject, that means you're looking at y equals to minus x plus 4. So here's what you have to do now. You have to plug in points. Okay, so let's plug in minus 1, 0 and 1. Should be good enough. So here's x, here's y. Minus 1, 0, and 1. So minus 1 becomes positive 1. 1 plus 4 becomes 5. So minus 1 pi 5 means it's going to be over here. 0 pi 4 means it's going to be over here. And 1 pi 3 means it's going to be over here. Okay. Now you can join these 3 points and make a straight line. And there you go. This is what you get. Okay. Now make sure that when you've made a straight line, you extend it enough. Okay. Okay, now, so then it says on the grid, shade and label region R. Again, it's not asking you to, it is asking you to shade and label the region R defined by the following inequality. So we have to shade the wanted region. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to shade the wanted region. So x plus y is lesser than or equal to 4. So this is the line x plus y equals to 4. Since it's saying lesser than, this is the region that we're going to shade. Okay, now when you're shading with a pencil, please use a light pencil and just be quick with your shading. Okay, ये नहीं कि आप पूरा इसको aesthetic that you get so fixated on the aesthetics that you lose time on it. Then it says 2y is greater than or equal to x. So that's the line that was already drawn for us. So we're going to shade the region that is above the line. Okay, if you think you're going to get confused with something, then here's what you can do. You can write down the equation of the line next to it. Okay, 2y equals to x, and this is the line with equation y equals to 2. Okay, then it says y is lesser than or equal to 2. That means the region below the line. So this is what we're going to shade. Okay, then it says x is greater than or equal to 0. So x is greater than or equal to 0 means it's the y-axis. So we're going to shade on the right side of the y-axis. So again, look for the region where you have all the shaded you have all the shaded parts intersecting. So that's this region over here. So this is your region R. There you go. That's your answer. Okay, now then we have, okay, let's do this question. This is a question that you guys were talking about, right? So let's do this question, and we're going to do the very last question of this worksheet, and I think that should be it. Okay. So I'll let you guys try this. I'll give you guys 5 minutes to do it. A stream on rotation. I have a whole playlist on transformation. Have you seen that? If you, I do plan on doing a stream of past paper questions of transformation, but if you want to clear the concept, then check out the stream that I have already on transformation. Not the stream, sorry, the playlist that I have already on transformation. Okay, I will take that question also earlier, don't worry. As long as it's of inequalities and the shading part, then yeah. Would appreciate a probability / similarities congruency. Okay, let me see if I can do that. Congruence and similarity honestly is one of those topics that I personally hate teaching. Congruency, not similarity. I just don't like that topic. I don't know why. Yes, that calculator is allowed. Yes, I will be streaming tomorrow, most likely yearly past papers. Okay. Anyway, so it says here the region inside triangle ABC is defined by 3 inequalities. Now, notice this is a question that I was talking about. This is the concept that I was talking about. It says inside the triangle number 1, and you have 3 inequalities. One is 2x plus 3y is less than 32. Okay, so if 2x plus 3y is less than 32, you have to write down the other 2 inequalities. Now, which one do you think this could be? This has to be the equation of this line. Okay, so that means we're not going to go through the pain of finding out the equation of this line. It's given to us. that the equation of line BC is 2x plus 3y equals to 32. Okay, now let's start with the easier one. Let's start with this horizontal line. Now since this is a horizontal line and it's going to cut the y-axis at 2 if we extend it, so that means the equation of this line is going to be y equals to 2, not x equals to 2, y equals to 2. Okay, then let's talk about line AC. So we have the coordinates of A 1, 2, we have the coordinates of C 4, 8. Let's find out the gradient. 8 minus 2 over 4 minus 1, so that's 6 upon 3, which is equal to 2. Okay, so that means this is what we're looking at, y equals to 2x plus c. Let's plug in a point through which this line is passing. Let's plug in 1, 2. So 2 in place of x, 1 in place of 2 in place of y, 1 in place of x. And now we have 2 equals to 2 plus c, which means c is equals to 0. That means y is equals to 2x. So this line has equation y is equals to 2x. There you go. Okay, now so the other two inequalities. Now notice that the region that we want is above this line, y equals to 2, and even though it's a dotted line, but the question says write down the region inside the triangle, so it's going to be y is greater than 2. And just like that, the equation of this line AC is y equals to 2x. The region that we want is below the line, so that means the sign that we're going to use is y is less than 2x, okay, not lesser than or equal to. Okay, then it says the point k comma 7, where k is an integer, lies inside the triangle ABC. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to clean this up. Okay, I'm going to take a screenshot of this. Okay, now let's bring this back here. Okay, now the point k comma 7, where k is an integer, lies inside the triangle. Now k comma 7, what does that mean? That means here's x, which is k, and here's y, which is 7. So that means here's what we know so far about the point, whatever this point is. Let's call it point P. Okay, so notice that this point has y coordinate 8. If you have a point which has coordinates k comma 7, so we can see for sure that the y coordinate is what? That the y coordinate is 7. So that means the point has to be somewhere on this line. Okay, the point has to be somewhere on this line. So here's what we're going to do. Okay, so what we're going to do is, let me change this to, just a second, let me change this to, yeah, here. Yeah, so that means the point has to be somewhere on this line. Why? Because this is the line which has equation y equals to 7. So all the points that have y coordinate 7 will be somewhere on this line. Okay, now notice that the question says that it lies inside the triangle, and it also says that it has integer, and it also says that you have to find out the possible values. That means you can have more than one. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to find out, now remember k is the x coordinate. So we're going to find out the least possible x coordinate, and we're going to find out the maximum possible x coordinate. Now the least possible x coordinate will be just when this line touches the triangle, and the maximum possible x coordinate will be just before exiting the triangle. So it's like this. The second the line enters the triangle, okay, that's going to be one potential value of k if it's an integer. Okay, and as soon as the line exits the triangle, that's going to be another potential value. In fact, it's not going to be a potential value, but we'll have at least our boundary values. Okay, so k has to be in between these two x values. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to find out the lowest possible x value, and we're going to find out the highest possible x value. Now the question is, how do we do that? Now remember, if we're talking about this point right here, okay, now what's the equation of this line? The equation of this line is y equals to 2x. Now y equals to 2x, on this line there is a point which has y coordinate 7. So how will I find out the x coordinate? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to plug in 7. So 7 equals to 2x, which means x equals to 3.5. So there you go. Now you know that the range starts from 3.5. Okay, and just like that, we're going to find out where the range ends. How will you do that? Here's how we're going to do it. This line, remember, has equation 2x plus 3y equals to 32. Is that what the question said? Yeah, 2x plus 3y equals to 32. So you have a line which has equation 2x plus 3y equals to 32, and on this line you know you have a point which has y as 7. So how will you find out the corresponding x coordinate? What you're going to do is you're going to plug in y as 7. So 2x plus 3 into 7 equals to 32. which means 2x is equals to 32 minus 21. 32 minus 21, which means 2x is equals to what? Equals to 11, which means x equals to what? X equals to 5.5. So that means this is where the range ends. Now, how many integer values can k take now? K can be equal to 4 because this will be a point that's inside the triangle, and k can also be equal to 5. So what are the possible values of k? 4 and 5. So there you go. The values of k are 4, 5, and that's your final answer. Now this was a challenging one, so there you go. How 2x come? Okay, 2x we found out earlier. It was the equation of the line AC. Okay. So there you go. That's the answer to this part. I hope it's clear. Okay. Now let's do this. ये solve करें. Sir did 5 years question paper. Is that enough? Yes, if you've been getting a good score consistently, that's more than enough. It's pretty good actually. Okay, I can't say anything whether it will come or not. Okay, but good thing that you've done it. I don't know if it's going to come or not. उसके बारे में मैं कुछ नहीं कह सकता. But yeah, good job. Good job, Superman. Yes, this stream will be uploaded. I can understand. So there's just this question and one more question after this question, and that's it. Been doing math since 12. Okay. Baby question. Okay. Anyway, do we have the answer? Yes or no? आप लोग बातें ही कर रहे हैं या आंसर निकाले या नहीं? 6x plus 7y is greater than 42 and x is greater than 2. The second part. So difficult. Yeah, the second part is difficult. Okay. Now, so basically, you know what the equation of line AB is. You know it's y is equals to x upon 5. Okay, so let's write that down. Y is equals to... Okay, now I'm going to write it as 1 upon 5x. I'll tell you why. And then you have 6x plus 7y equals to 42. So I'll write that over here. 6x plus 7y equals to 42. Okay. And now for this vertical line, it's x equals to 2. Okay. Now, no big deal. X equals to 2. It is. Now, then it says the region inside triangle ABC is defined by 3 inequalities. One of these is y is greater than x upon 5. Write down the other 2 inequalities. So again, same concept applies here also. It's inside. And you can see in one of the inequalities, the question hasn't used the greater than or equal to sign, only the greater than sign. So it's going to be y is greater than 1 upon 5x because it's above, and it's going to be x is less than 2 because it's on the left. Okay? Oh no, wait a minute. वो तो हमें पहले से ही दिया हुआ है. So it's going to be 6x plus 7y is less than 42. Okay, I think I need a break also. Khair. So part B says the line y equals to kx passes through triangle ABC. Find all the possible integer values of k. Okay, now this should be fun. So first of all, I want you guys to understand one thing, and that is y equals to kx is basically the equation of a straight line with y-intercept 0. So that means this line has to pass between the triangle ABC, and in order to do that, its gradient should be greater than the gradient of line AB, and also its gradient should be lesser than the gradient of line OC. Let's say this is OC. Okay. Now, first of all, what is the gradient of line AB? Now, the equation of line AB was y equals to 1 upon 5x. That means the gradient is 1 upon 5. Okay. Now, for any line to pass through the triangle, it has to be greater than the gradient of this line, which is 1 upon 5. Why? Because the greater the gradient, the steeper the line gets. Okay. So please remember this. For a line to pass inside triangle ABC, okay, for a line to pass through this, its gradient has to be the gradient of the least steep line and the gradient of the most steep line. Okay. So the gradient of the least steep line is 1 upon 5, and the gradient of the steepest line, well, we'll have to figure that out. And the gradient has to be in between the two. Okay. So let's find out the gradient of the line OC. Notice we have the coordinates of O, it's 0, 0, but we don't have the coordinates of C. Well, we have the x coordinate, but we don't have the y coordinate. So how do we find out the y coordinate? Now, C is a point which lies on the equation, which lies on the line with equation 6x plus 7y equals to 42. So 6x plus 7y equals to 42. Now, on this line, there is a point which has x coordinate 2. So through this, we can find out the y coordinate. So 6 times 2 plus 7y equals to 42, which means 12 plus 7y equals to 42, which means 7y equals to 42 minus 12 is equals to what? Equals to 30, which means 7y is equals to 30 upon 7. No, wait a minute. I think I've done something wrong. 6 into 2 is 12. Have I done something wrong? 6x plus 7y equals to... Okay, no, I don't think I've done anything wrong. Just a second. Let me make sure that I haven't done anything wrong. Okay. So basically, what that means is 3s are 21, 7 4s are सही क्या पक्की बात है मुझे ऐसा कुछ लग रहा है कि मैंने गड़बड़ किया 6x plus 7y equals to 42. So if you plug in 2, ठीक है, that's fine. Now let's find out the decimal value of this. Okay. Now you don't have to find out the exact decimal value of this, but here's what you can do. You can find out the approximate value of this. Okay. So if you find out the approximate value of this, acha theek hai, it's fine. Of course, it's not the final answer. Okay, never mind. So C has coordinates 2, 30 upon 7. So these are the coordinates of C. The coordinates of O are 0, 0. Okay. Now here's what we're going to do. We're going to find out the gradient. So I thought maybe this is the gradient. Why I was wondering that's something wrong. 30 upon 7 minus 0 over 2 minus 0. So let's figure this out. 30 over 7 divided by 2 basically means 30 over 7 into 1 upon 2, which means 15 over 7. Okay. Now I'll tell you guys what I've done. So basically we found out the coordinates of C turned out to be 2, 30 upon 7, and through this we found out the gradient of line OC. Okay. So the line OC has gradient what? The line OC has gradient 15 over 7. Now 15 over 7, if you find this out in mixed number, you will get 2 whole 1 upon 7. Okay. 2 whole 1 upon 7 basically means that the gradient of this line is equal to 2 whole 1 over 7. Now this is the final stretch. For a line to pass through the triangle ABC, its gradient has to be greater than 1 upon 5, and its gradient also has to be lesser than 2 whole 1 upon 7. Okay. Now, what we're doing is we're looking for integer values between 1 over 5 and 2 whole 1 over 7. Now, how many integer values do we have in between 1 over 5 and 2 over 7, and what are they? What do you think? How many integer values do we have in between 1 upon 5 and 2 whole 1 over 7? Yep, that's correct. That is why the final answer is 1, 2. And there you go. Now I'll give you guys a quick recap. So basically, first things first, we found out the gradient of line AB, that's 1 upon 5. We found out the gradient of line OC, for which we first had to find out the coordinates of C, turned out to be 2 comma 30 over 7. Then we found out the gradient of line OC, which turned out to be 15 over 7, which is equal to 2 whole 1 over 7. Now 2 whole 1 over 7 is the gradient of this line. Ab dekho, if a line has to pass inside the triangle or through the triangle ABC, its gradient has to be greater than the gradient of this line. So basically it has to be steeper than this line and it has to be flatter than this line. So if it has to be steeper than line AB, its gradient has to be greater than 1 upon 5, and if it has to be flatter than the line OC, its gradient has to be less than 2 whole 1 over 7. So how many, and also the question says that it should be an integer. So how many integer values do you have in between 1 upon 5 and 2 whole 1 over 7? 2, and they are 1 comma 2. So there you go. That's your answer for this part. Okay. Now, I think I'm going to stop over here. Okay. And these questions are good enough. Sir, if you're doing advanced, do you still need to study this maths? Yeah, of course. If you're doing advanced, then you still have to study math. Okay. The syllabus is, for the most part, it's different. Okay. There are only very few topics that coincide. For the most part, it's different. Okay. Now, so, sir, what topics are commonly tested in P1? I think I made a video on this already. Okay, if you've done enough past papers, then you would have had an idea by now. Okay, you would have had an idea by now if you've done enough past paper questions. Okay, so anyway, I'm gonna stop here. I will see you guys tomorrow, inshallah. Tomorrow, most likely, I will be solving some yearly past papers. Okay, so tune into that. I'll most likely do the ones that had a lower threshold, basically the difficult ones. And I think 2019 papers had a lower threshold, so I'll do that. And I'll be doing the other variant. I think I'll be doing variant 11, not variant 12, because variant 12, I think I already have a video on it. Okay. So that's it, boys and girls. Take care. I'll upload the notes and the solutions so you guys can download it.